So I wanted to make a video on Anna Kasparian's newly founded not misogyny, newly founded misanthropy. So in a recent video, she talked about 2016 being the year where she found out that there is no such thing as goodness in humanity. I just want to take a quick second to shake some perspective into you. Because that's really what you need. And I know this has been an ongoing struggle for you in terms of dealing with, whether there's actually any inherent goodness in humanity or not, because you've been dealing with a lot of bad trolls and people. But let me tell you, there are people, the fact that there are people who have actually firsthand looked into the evils and the atrocities that humanity is capable of, and the fact that they're able to look at all of us and still say there is goodness in humanity should shake some sense into you. And if I were to offer any advice to people who are close to you, it would be to try to shake some sense into you. Because what I realize is happening, and I don't know to what extent you are aware of this in your therapy sessions and whatnot, but I think it's the fact that you grew up in a very comforting environment, a comforting upbringing that enabled you to think that the world is a lot better than it actually is. So you are essentially being shell-shocked into reality, and your reaction to it is that, well, it's all evil. Any exposure that you have towards anything bad, any kind of hateful existence in this world, any kind of miserable existence in this world, and your automatic way of coping with it is just to give up, and it's all or nothing. You have all or nothing way of thinking, and so you think there's nothing but evil. And I think that's a product of your upbringing. You grew up in a very well-to-do, you grew up comfy, and we have very, very different upbringings. I grew up on an Indian reservation in San Diego, which is a lot different than your upbringing. My very existence on this earth, in this reality, is a constant daily reminder of the extent to which humanity is capable of evil. Reservations, also known as concentration camps for Native Americans, they were meant to kill us off. If you were raised in that kind of environment, how differently would you see the world? I tell you how differently. I'll tell you how differently you would see the world. You would look at evil, you would look at all the horrible things, and you would say, yeah, well, that's just how life has always been. But for you, this is news. For you, dealing with Twitter trolls, dealing with people who wish death upon you, dealing with people who suffer greatly with mental illness, and having it manifest in such horrible ways, such as voting for Donald Trump, this is all news to you. It's kind of like that SNL skit, I'm sure you've seen it, about election night, when all white people were just freaking out, like, I can't believe the world is such a horrible place. But to those of us who have had a less than desirable upbringing, this is no news to us, bro. Business as usual. And so what I think this reveals is your shallow perspective. If you had grown up the way I'd grown up, or if you were in any kind of challenging environment like that, I think with your way of thinking, it's almost as if you lacked the willpower to have made it through any kind of adversity. And you might have just given up. Because if you're willing to just give up on the goodness in humanity after just 1 year, try 500 years of bullshit that's still going on. Hashtag no dapple. My point is that somebody really needs to shake some sense into you. You need to shake some sense into yourself. You need to have an honest look in the mirror and tell yourself that you have no reason to believe that there's no goodness in humanity. You need to humble yourself, because I know you're going through something, but to say that the evil in the world outweighs the good in the world is simply not true. We may be outnumbered in the goodness, in the number of, and quantity, the quantity of goodness, in terms of the amount of people who are actually trying to do good in this world. We might be outnumbered, but in terms of quality and concentration, we far outweigh the evil that's being done. And if everybody were to think like you and just give in, that is the real evil that you should be afraid of. That is the real evil that you should be derisive of. So wake up. Please, somebody, shake some sense into her. All of you at Young Turks living a very comfortable life. Be thankful. Don't be hateful. Don't be cynical. Be thankful. You have great lives, and at worst you're covering these stories, secondhand experiencing them. But there are people who are actually firsthand experiencing them, and they're still able to look at you and say, yeah, there's still goodness in this world. So why don't you try to say that? Why don't you try a little bit of the optimism? If they can do it, why can't you? So brighten up. Have a great day.